Welcome back to another episode of the Pit Lane Yappers. I'm Mox.
I'm Rosie, and this is our Silverstone recap. A week late, whatever.
Someone had a much more exciting Silverstone experience than I did.
Oh boy, a lot happened this weekend. Um,
But
this
are
is
we
the home
talking about the
race.
big exciting news now, or should we do it
Yes,
later?
yeah, I do it now. Christian Horner has been fired.
Do it now. Christian Horner has officially been sacked. Finally. Finally. A good thing happened. Marco
Um,
next. I will say, unfortunately,
yes,
it is because of the car performance and not because of the other thing.
not because he has sexual assault
Um,
allegations.
with 100
So,
pages of WhatsApp notifications to back it up.
oh my
So
God, have you looked
we all
at the
know where
file?
Red Bull's priorities are. No.
Um, Yeah, this is the home race for Williams, McLaren, Aston Martin, who are quite literally next door, uh, Mercedes,
Red Bull,
George, Ollie, uh,
Lando,
Lewis, Alex,
Alex. Is that it?
um,
If we're forgetting a Brit, we're sorry. Okay. um, FP1.
Arvid was
Aston
in
Martin brought upgrades, everybody. Yeah. There are a lot
Arvid
of
Lindblad,
drivers in for.
who is also a Brit, was in Yuki Tsunoda's
Yep.
car, and Paul Aaron was
He's
in.
also. This is a really fun fact about Arvid. He is only the second driver to drive an F1 car under 18, and the only other driver to do that is Max. Which I thought Kimi was 17 when he drove for Mercedes, but
I think he just had his birthday, maybe.
so. But anyways, Paul Aaron was in for Hulkenberg.
Big name this weekend, that. Um,
He didn't need that practice.
um,
And as soon as there were drivers on the track, Liam Lawson immediately started complaining that Arvid was impeding him and didn't know where to drive and didn't know what he was doing. And I was like, it's FP1, who cares?
yeah, who gives a fuck?
Also, I don't know if you watched the highlights or it was in front. I don't know where it was, but literally Lawson turns the corner. I think it was at Cops. Arvid is almost on the grass out of his way, and that is when he radioed going, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, he's always in the way. And I was like, wait a minute, literally, where did you want him to go? The grass?
He must have thought, I don't know what he thought, but
I don't think he was thinking. Sorry,
well,
Liam Lawson, but
that's true.
I will say Ocon did not have the easiest of FP1s. He didn't get in until like halfway through the session because Haas was working on his car. Nobody said why.
Yeah, I have no idea.
But yeah. Also, Hamilton for the first time looked super comfortable in that Ferrari. I genuinely think because it's Silverstone, he could probably do that in his sleep. But
Yeah, it was nice to see actually, especially at Silverstone because regardless of where Hamilton places, regardless of whether it's practice or not, he goes around the track and everybody stands up and cheers for him. And you could tell that they meant to do it for only Lewis because sometimes Charles was coming in his Ferrari and people would start cheering. They'd go, woo! And then they'd realise who it was and they'd go, oh, and stop, which is pretty
sorry, I
fucking
know you
rude.
love Charles, but that's kind of funny.
And then,
It's kind of funny.
but I feel like a lot of the time
Just
my
imagining everyone going,
grandstand,
woo!
but a lot of the time my grandstand, I think I started the cheering because I would know who was coming, uh, and I am cheering for Charles regardless, and I'd be like, woo! And then everyone would hear me cheering for the Ferrari, and then join in, and then realize who it was.
That's kind
So
of funny.
so sorry,
Speaking of
Charles.
Charles, though, speaking of Charles, he kind of like took a turn quite wide and he got front wing damage
Did
and no
he?
one was watching it. Yeah. It was very, very minimal, but he did get front wing damage to the point where Ferrari had to fix it. But then after that, Pierre spun out.
Yeah, yeah. At Cops.
He saved it though.
Yeah, little ballerina moment.
And then literally as soon as that happened, Isaac Hadjar went P3 and Liam Lawson went P5 and I went, what?
No, they were pretty fast, to be honest.
Yeah. And Hadjar went P1 with 37 minutes to go.
My
But
God.
Lando and Oscar, they went to Ruth in the pit lane, and she was like, Lando and Oscar are running two different specs in FP1. One is doing high downforce, and one's doing something
Not
else.
high
I can't
five.
remember. But they were trying to figure out what would be good for the weekend. And I think they went with Lando's after FP2, but they never touched on it again.
Um, yeah, so fastest was Lewis, followed
Hold
by
on.
Oh,
Yellow flag, Bortoletto spun.
oh, yeah. Lots of that this weekend also.
But yeah, there was a lot of spinning out. But anyways, P1 Lewis Hamilton, P2 Lando Norris, and P3 Oscar Piastri.
I was very happy with that. FP2.
The first note I have is what the heck did they put in those racing bulls?
Yeah.
Flying.
And then I have the moment where Carlos spun and nearly hit Lewis.
Before that, Ollie came on to the radio, and it was the first time I've ever heard him say, like, I have a problem. Maybe because they've had so many problems, they just didn't air it, or I was just not, I don't remember, but he said he has a lot of understeer in the high corners, which is the first of the season he's felt it. And then Max also said, hey, my front tires aren't turning in the high speeds.
Yes, yeah. But the Carlos
Which,
and Lewis activity was like right in front of me essentially, which was crazy.
but then it was a yellow with Carlos spinning.
Yeah, again.
Um,
Marshals were very busy this weekend, I will say that.
So, not that anybody really cares, Lance Stroll went P6. He was on. We need to have a conversation about Lance Stroll, but we'll wait for the race because my God, that man knows what he's doing. But this was also a race note. I don't remember if it was on the screen or was told, but we found out that Carlos was summoned to the stewards for alleged dangerous driving, for his spinning. Nobody really knows what the dangerous driving was besides spinning and coming. It was coming back onto the track.
Yeah, I think he joined.
But
yeah,
if you look at the document, that is not what they said it was for.
oh.
I don't know if they just copy and paste things and they forgot to change it, but I was like, that didn't happen. I don't know what you're talking about. But P1 was Lando Norris, P2 was Charles Leclerc, and P3 was Lewis Hamilton. I never want to hear about how Ferrari has a bad car ever again, everybody. Thank you very much.
I do. Because this... There's no good only having a good car in
Anyways.
practice.
Anyways, FP3. It was delayed because of a crash in F2, I think.
Oh my god. So in F2,
I can't remember if it was a crash or a spin out.
Somebody was stranded on the pit lane in F2 right in front of us, and the marshals went to like start pushing the car out into the road to get it to the other side, and I'm not joking, all the other cars were about to come around the corner. They were like, the marshals were pushing the car forward further into the track.
That's terrifying.
And then I think they only realised because we all started shouting at them, like, and then they had to push it the other way.
That's terrifying.
It was scary. We really thought we were going to see
what
someone
happened to
get
communication here, people? The marshals, we're supposed to protect the marshals, but I guess that's why FP3 was delayed. Excuse me, sorry. It's like 6 a.m. for me. So, the next note I have is why are the McLarens struggling? And I wrote that down, and immediately they were like, reminder, McLarens are on like 2-lap old tires while everybody else is on new ones. So I went, oh, there it is. Because they were like P13 and P18, where I was like, what is happening? But they were on old tires, so.
Oh.
Also, Liam Lawson and Pierre Gasly were racing. Like, they were overtaking each other, and I was like, what is happening?
Not necessary.
Yeah.
Also, the only, like, the big thing that happened in FP3 is Bortoletto's suspension spin.
First, Liam Lawson got a black and white flag for driving erratically, which is what I think was Pierre and him, because he did kind of start the racing. And then there was a red flag because there was bodywork on the track. It was marshals just had to go grab it, but it was literally in the middle of the track, so they couldn't avoid it. And when it went green again, Ollie went P6, and then immediately a red flag because Bortoletto spun. That was terrifying.
It looked big. Like, it was further along than me, I think. I think it was in...
He flew... I don't know if you watched the recaps or you had a screen, but, like, this is the, you know, apex or whatever. He literally went flying over the bump, and all of a sudden his car just goes, boom! Like, flies, and his suspension breaks. I was like, what
the
heck
bad.
just happened?
It sounded bad. But
he's fine. They had a lot of work to do.
Everyone pit for the red flag, but Ollie crashed into the pit lane. No comment. Welcome back, Charles Leclerc, home race arc.
P1 was Charles Leclerc, P2 was Piastri, and P3 was Max.
Yeah. And then
so quali, right before quali started was when we found out Ollie had a 10-place grid penalty.
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about
that.
That
man breathes, and the FIA is like, penalty.
He's the new Esteban.
But Q1, literally Gasly got into turn 1, and he was like, it's a bit of a drizzle out here.
Oh my god.
And also, Bortoletto, is driving. Sauber worked their butts off.
Yeah, give them a raise. A raise immediately.
Sauber got that raise. this weekend. Trust me. But also George came onto the radio and Marcus Dudley, I don't know, said something. There was no caption, so I couldn't tell what he said, but he said something, and George was like, "Okay, what's the plan?" What do you mean? Didn't they talk about this before qualifying?
Isn't the plan to go as fast as possible?
Like what? But pretty soon into it, there was a yellow flag. Franco spun and hit the wall.
That was literally right in front of us, like a
I remember
insane.
I got home from work and I saw your story, and he was just right there, and I went, "Oh." And I
Yeah.
hadn't watched it, so I thought it was Pierre, and I was like, well, typical Alpine. And then I was like, oh, really typical Alpine.
Yeah.
I also have a comment saying this is what they got rid of Jack doing for.
Yeah. Well, the commentators were quite messy. They said, like the on-track commentators, he was like, that's the same amount of Q1 exits as Jack doing.
I will also say the cameramen were very messy because they, as soon as they went, oh, there's Colapinto in the wall, immediately, boom, to Jack doing.
Well,
I was like, that's awkward. But that turned into a red flag because it was a big crash.
I just hope that F1 never fire the Charles Leclerc cameraman man. Great.
But
I enjoy that scene every time.
when it was right before the green flag, when everybody was lining up in front of in the the pit lane, Oscar came onto the radio and he's like, "Hey, the rain seems a lot worse than before." And Lewis was on the track already because he was like one of the first out, and he was reporting it's a lot more slippery. And speaking of the Ferrari, this is when Leclerc was noted for a yellow flag infringement. Nothing came out of it. Nobody knows what the infringement was, but I think it might have been speeding, but I'm not sure. But 2 minutes to go, Alonso went P4 and Alex Albon went P3.
Yeah.
But the drivers who were out were Franco Colapinto, obviously, Nico Hulkenberg, Lance Stroll, Gabriel Bortoletto, and Liam Lawson.
I was going to say Hamilton had to come in because he didn't have enough fuel.
Likely a Ferrari.
Yeah. Yeah, because
but he's not out.
Like, what the fuck?
But Q2, Max started complaining about the car. I went, okay, he's locked in. He's getting pole.
Yeah, basically.
I knew it. But Oscar and Max set the exact same speed.
Yeah.
Lap record.
Which was crazy. But Oscar got to stay ahead because he set it first.
I will also say George came onto the radio. We don't know whose it was, but he was like, yeah, their outlap was way too slow. And I had to slow down.
Apparently it was Antonelli's lap that was too slow.
Yeah, but Alonso, he came onto the radio and he's like, Antonelli is doing something that should be a penalty, but that's good because it's good for us. It'll move us up.
Okay, diva.
And they immediately zoomed to Adrian Newey in the garage. And I was like, yeah, Newey likes this driver, I can tell. But the drivers who were out were Esteban Ocon, Alex Albon, who came onto the radio and it's like, this is a totally different car than you had me drive yesterday. What did you do? Isaac Hadjar, Yuki Tsunoda, and Carlos Sainz.
Yeah. In Q3, the only note I have is Max said the car is difficult to drive, immediately followed by Max Verstappen pole position.
I have one note besides Max pole, and I think it was DC was like Red Bull when they have low deg, they can't really do much. So it really depends on the driver what they can take out of the car. And I was like, you are talking about four-time world champion Max Verstappen, right? And then Max got pole. I was like, yeah, he definitely heard that. He heard that. So Max Verstappen was
but
P1 pole position at Silverstone.
44th pole position in Lewis Hamilton's house. The crowd was not happy. I will say that, unfortunately.
But Oscar
Oscar
Piastri was P2 and Lando was P3. And then Antonelli had a 3-place grid penalty from the previous round for causing a collision with Max, and Ollie had the 10-place grid penalty.
Yes. Lots going on.
That goes on to the race. This is when we found out Colapinto was starting from the pit lane because they broke their curfew to fix his car. And lap 15 to 17, they were expecting rain.
But boy, did it rain Sunday morning.
The formation lap was also behind a safety car.
Did it rain?
So, after the formation lap, Charles, George, Isaac, Ollie, and obviously Franco, because he had to start from the pit lane, but they all pit.
Yeah, like immediately.
So that's half of the top 10. And so lap 1, immediately a yellow flag. Lawson went off.
Yes, Lawson.
And they were like, the safety car did not come out yet, though. It came out on lap 2, which was a virtual safety car, and this was our first DNF.
Yeah.
Liam Lawson.
I would also
and
like to...
I didn't realize he had contact with Ocon. Because
also,
I was like, why did he just went off?
He's the first DNF, but he's the second car to retire because they retired Colapinto.
Yeah, never mentioned that. They never mentioned that.
His name was just grayed out at the bottom.
He just didn't start, actually.
Yeah, he had
I
contact.
thought he was just...
Yeah,
But yeah, Lawson had contact with Ocon, and his suspension, did you see it?
No. What was it like?
It was bad. It was completely broken. Completely broken.
Oh.
Yeah, it was bad. But, so, obviously he had to DNF. And lap 3 is when Antonelli pit for slicks.
I don't have that. I just have after the safety car that Bortoletto was out and there was a yellow flag for that.
Yeah.
Which is like the millionth flag.
That
yellow
was
flag
the
for
lap after.
weekend.
By the way, that was also the same lap the virtual safety car ended. And then they had to do another yellow flag. They had a virtual safety car. Again.
Well, my note immediately after that one is
but
Oscar Piastri
when the green flag started, Oscar...
Beautiful, beautiful overtake. I was the only person in my grandstand who was happy about, I don't know, people weren't very happy about anything. I think the weather was making everybody miserable.
But the next lap is when Max went off. The next lap is when Max went off. And the next lap was when people started pitting, but I didn't realize people were in the pits. and then I saw Alex Albon P2, and I was like, stop the race. Stop the race. But lap 13, Lando pit, and I made a note of this because it was a slow pit stop. They didn't even give the time, which means it was slow. But lap 14, another safety car came out.
Yeah. And then Charles took a little day trip through the grass. But he came onto the radio and said that he had a huge splash of water into his visor and he couldn't see anything. First of all, dangerous. Second of all, that would only happen to him.
Likely a Ferrari. Yeah, I will say he didn't, the way that the radio came after, it was just Charles was driving through the grass and everyone's like, wait a minute, he's not even near the track. Well, how did he get on the grass? And then he radioed going like, so there's water, I can't see a thing.
Like, Ferrari's trying to
lap
kill
15, likely. Lap 15, Lance Stroll went P4.
Oh, I have Brit
Meanwhile, the next lap.
Because
meanwhile, the next lap, Alonso's radio. The next lap, so lap 16, Alonso radioed in. He's like, so is everyone just faster or do we have bad tires? And they were like, everyone just seems to have a better strategy. And he goes, it's amazing. You never get it right with me. My God, were the Lance Stroll fans mad about that. I was like, girl, Lance Stroll is P4. Alonso's like P18. What are we talking about? But it did come out after the race that Lance was sharing information about the track and the car and the tires and what they should be doing with Alonso. And Alonso's radio engineer just didn't share it.
Also, I feel like when a driver says, from my side of the garage after a race, that's because they don't know what was happening on the other side of the garage.
God forbid media duties is right after the race, everybody.
But like,
anyways,
if I said, oh, from my side of the garage,
lap 17, there was a green flag finally.
In the garage. Yeah, and then it wasn't on lap 18.
Anyways. Yeah, lap 17, it was a green flag. And then lap 18 was a safety car. Isaac went into Kimi. Couldn't see a thing. And by the way, when I say into Kimi, I mean he literally went boom.
Yeah.
It was bad. His tire was on top of his head.
I just saw, like, I've just seen what Isaac's car looked like. Oh my God.
It was bad.
Like,
it was bad.
It was kind of giving Monaco Checo.
Yeah. It was bad.
Safety car.
Safety car. And this is when the drama really began. Because Oscar was in the lead. Max was right behind him. And Max overtook Oscar in during the safety car, and everyone's like, okay, that's going to be noted for an infringement. And then it came up that Oscar Piastri was noted for an infringement because Red Bull Racing had reported that he is too slow and he slammed on his brakes.
I looked at this because obviously they had to brake for another safety car before, and the only difference between that safety car and this safety car when Oscar braked is Max's speed, really. Red Bull Racing, I'm not forgiving you for this crime, to be honest.
Lap 22 is when the verdict came out. Max spun because the safety car had restarted. He had no grip on the safety on the restart. Lance went P3 because of it.
That Max
Lance went P3
at Vale, which we could see, because our view essentially was you could kind of see them coming through Stowe, a Vale, because we were kind of in front of the podium. There's Vale around Club Corner, and then if you stretched your neck out, you could see the start finish line. So beautiful view. We did see a lot of spins though, and Max was one of them.
Oh no, this is when it was noted. The safety car infringement was noted. Yeah. Then lap 23, the next lap, was when Mark came onto the radio and said, "Hey, Kimmy, we're gonna retire the car."
Oh no, I've got a few more. I have Alex Albon overtakes Max just after the infringement was noted, and then there was.
Well, that's because Max spun.
Yeah. And then I have it
like I would just like everybody, if they didn't watch Silverstone and they're watching this, it was not like Alex had a better car than Red Bull, which he probably does, but he has really bad strategy. Max was really going through it.
There was also a very brief yellow flag for Ollie Behrman.
Yeah, I didn't even get that. I don't think I saw that.
But yeah, Stroll P3 and Hulkenberg P4.
But lap 25 is when it came out that Oscar has a 10-second penalty for the safety car infringement.
Foul behavior. Can I say gifted win? I'm going to say gifted
win. But anyways, this is when the McLaren drama started. And I was like, ooh, the neighbors are fighting.
Yeah.
But this was also when Behrman and Yuki, Ollie and Behrman had, Ollie and Yuki had a, I don't even know what it was called. But they were being investigated.
Also, George, I think this was at the same time. The screen suddenly cut to George, and he was like spinning through the grass.
Yeah, everybody wanted to be a lawnmower today.
Yeah, there's so much happened in this race. But Antonelli did mark the final retirement of the race. We are 5 rookies. Well, we are 5 people down. So
okay, this is when it gets really exciting. Lap 30, it was Gasly versus Hamilton. Hamilton overtook Gasly. Lap 34 is when they came back to Hulkenberg, and they were like, just mind you, now Hulkenberg is in front of Lewis Hamilton.
At his home race.
And they were like, he's got to be a bit nervous that Lewis Hamilton, the guy who's won Silverstone more times than anybody else, is right behind him in a Ferrari, and he's driving a Sauber. Mind you, Nico Hulkenberg was just like, la la la, I'm just gonna drive my car and do my best.
I don't know why everyone's like, in a Ferrari.
Well, compared to a Sauber.
Yeah.
Compared to a Sauber. Rosie, you can't tell me your car is worse than a Sauber, because that means it's worse than Aston Martin, which it's not.
We have to bear in mind that Nico Hulkenberg has had 239 race starts without a podium.
Yeah. But lap 35, Lance was P3. This is when I started crying, everybody, because I really was like, oh my gosh, are we going to get a Strodium? No. Nico Hulkenberg, lap 35, overtook Lance. And then I went, oh my gosh, we're going to get a Hulkenberg podium. What the heck?
Yeah, no, because I saw it and I was not willing to believe it, because I was like, this is going to be devastating if he gets overtaken. But,
yeah. But lap 38 is when they pit Alonso for mediums, and he was like, why are we going on mediums? And they were like, anyways, we're giving you mediums. Still don't know why we went on mediums, but it's fine. But this was also Alonso, right before Alonso pit, George came onto the radio, and he was like, what are we feeling about slicks or mediums? And his engineer came back to the radio and he went, it's a suicide mission if you go on anything but intermediates. Immediately, Alonso pits for mediums. I was like, well, welcome to Fernando Alonso, who, by the way, I think chose to pit, but I think he thought he was getting another intermediate tire, and immediately he got a medium, and so He was flying still. Lap 40 though is lap 39 George pit for hard tires because he saw that Alonso could do it, so he's like, I can do it. And then lap 40 immediately after, he spun through the gravel and he goes, so it's much wetter before. And DC was like, yeah, that's what happens when you take off your intermediate and wet tires.
DC was like, yes.
But lap 42 is when everybody else started to pit for not wet tires. So Lewis pit for softs, Stroll, Max, Gasly, they all pit. Everybody was pitting. And then lap 44, Oscar pit.
Yeah.
And he served his
10 seconds.
And immediately after he came out of the pit lane, yellow flag. Because Ocon was off. And welcome back, the French Revolution. Ollie Behrman and Esteban Ocon had contact. But
yeah,
this means Lando overtook Oscar because he had to serve his 10-second penalty. So it was Lando, Oscar, and then Nico Hulkenberg. And up until the last lap of the race, it did not look like Hulkenberg was going to keep that podium because Lewis was right there with him.
Yeah, of course. Like, I mean,
but my God,
as
Hulkenberg.
Much as it was sad to see Lewis's podium streak look like it was coming to an end, the Hulkenberg podium was much more exciting. So sorry to Lewis.
I mean, if it wasn't going to be a Lance podium, I'm glad it was a Nico Hulkenberg one.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And
I would have loved Lewis up there, though. I really would have.
Yeah, it would have been nice, but I think there's a very nice story in that for Nico Hulkenberg. The podium did seem a little bit awkward, I can't lie, but...
Oh my gosh, Nico had no idea what he was doing, which was so endearing to me. I was like, that man has no idea where he's going or what he's doing or what he's supposed to do.
There, like, what the fuck?
And then I have a comment for the McLaren boys who were not happy with each other. I get it. However, I don't care. You spray that man with so much champagne, you better freaking be taking a shower in it. Nobody sprayed Nico Hulkenberg. Literally no one.
It was really cute though watching the podium because so the podium was kind of right there, but obviously right at the bottom they have the fence, so we could only see people's hands.
Yeah.
And we could see McLaren like politely clapping like this, and then
you could see State going.
Yeah, it was like all their hands, like you could see all their hands like shoot up and be like, yeah. And
I cried so hard for him. Also, I would just like to note that Sauber did not have any champagne because they were not expecting anything, so much so that Aston Martin and Mercedes donated champagne.
No, I saw that and I actually genuinely nearly started crying on the train.
So sweet.
Back to London. I was like, oh. And I just think
that's it.
Like
I will say Lando won the British Grand Prix.
Good for him.
Literally after saying on Thursday or Friday, I can't remember what he said when he said it, but he was like, I'd literally trade all of my other wins for a home race win. Doesn't have to do that anymore. And there's always something so touching to me. People winning their home race. I don't care who you are.
I was gonna say Piastri got a lot of flack for what he said in his post-race interview. He said, I think, because they were talking, I think he'd been asked about Lando and his home race win, and obviously he had just lost the win. But Oscar was like, I think, congratulations to Nico. I think that's the highlight of the day, or whatever. And
everyone was so mad.
But he's right.
He's right.
You're
It literally was the highlight of the day. God forbid a man after 239 races finally gets a podium.
Yeah, but and like, no offense to Lando Norris, but Nico Hulkenberg getting his first podium after 15 years is a much bigger story than you winning a Grand Prix because your teammate got a 10-second penalty behind a safety car.
Yeah.
Like,
But I will say congratulations to Lando. It's a big feat to win your home race.
yes. And Oscar,
Like, everyone wants to win their home race.
Oscar, your 13-second gap in the rain will be remembered by me. Okay? I remember.
Nope. But there are no races for the next 2 weeks. The next one is Spa, and it is also a sprint weekend. So a lot of points to be had. And it's Oscar's favorite track, so...
And the last time he came away from a race angry, he locked the fuck in. And clawed back that championship by like 50 points or something. Because he went from a 20-point deficit to a 20-point lead. My go. But yeah, I think that's the whole weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we will see you
500,000 people in attendance at Silverstone.
Crazy.
We will see you in Spa.
We will see you in Spa. Bye.